I did not realize how much Jenna and my paths for our careers have really ran in parallel, but she and I both worked in banking for the merchant services divisions for 10 plus years. We'll leave it at that at the start of our career. And then our paths crossed working at a super ISO together that was then acquired by PaySafe. And as Jenna said, I did not know who Jenna was, and she invited me I met her in a couple of board meetings, and then she invited me to one of these technology calls, and so we started just building a relationship based on, which I will say I was very appreciative of the trust that she instilled with me, because closing these deals for Jenna it was extremely important for, not only her sales quota, but for the company. And she did have a lot of faith and trust in me to come in. So, but yeah, Jenna is unapologetically bold and confident. If you know her, like, she walks into a room and she owns it.
I wore color today.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Perfect. But she is who she is. And I think that's the one thing that struck me about Jenna is she never tried to be anything that she wasn't, and she has always stayed true to who she is at the core all of these years later. We've known each other for over a decade now, and been a huge resource. One of my non-negotiables that I mentioned also, like, just availability. It could be midnight. I think I could text Jenna and she would respond to me.
100%. I work 24/7, 7 days a week.
I can say the same.
Yeah,
I worked on my honeymoon unapologetically, but that's just because I love what we do.
Yeah.
I absolutely love what we do. And I love, you can go on LinkedIn and easily find my phone number on LinkedIn, because I have no problem. I love answering questions.
Can we just talk about her LinkedIn?
I was just going to say
Jenna
something.
has the most funniest memes. She posts. I honestly, if I'm having a bad day, all I have to go is on LinkedIn and find one of Jenna's posts. And I don't know how you come up with the funniest. I crack up all the
laugh
time.
out loud funny.
They're so entertaining.
It is an outlet for me to have fun, because business development can get kind of stuffy. And quite frankly, our payments industry is actually pretty small. And I think we could all use a chuckle every once in a while.
And thank you for that. And it actually is one of the things that I really love about you. And I do want to say the first time I met Jenna was about 10, maybe?
At least.
No, it has
more than 10 years ago.
I was with Sahara, and she's like, we're going to dinner with Jenna's taking us to dinner. I don't know who you were working with at the time. It was an ISO, and we were in Vegas. It was for ETA, and you were wearing like a Vegas glittery top and a little mini skirt and your shoes. I mean, but you were just business, and you were funny, and I was just like, I love this woman. We had dinner. You were in control. You were. By the end of that dinner, I remember I was a fan, and I was like, I'll refer business to you. So you're in the hot seat.
Do it.
So, what does GOAT stand for?
GOAT is not that little goat I always post in the emoji.
That's not
LinkedIn, but it does stand for greatest of all time. But really, it is a reminder in our organization to really serve a purpose of, being the best we can at solutioning for hard-to-place merchants, or just dealing with partners and collaborations. And it's an easy reminder we're there to be the greatest of all time. We're there to, much like Sarah at ISV, support any kind of problems that they have that come in when it comes to complex placement with hard to place merchants. We want to make sure we're the first call that they make when it comes to solutioning for very hard to place verticals, high volume, any of those things.
So what do you guys consider high risk? Because I know a lot of people throw that term around, but it can mean so many things.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about what it means inside GOAT.
So all of us come from corporate, and we know underwriting policies pretty well. When I was at corporate, we always said, sure, send us your restricted or prohibited, but we never could fill that gap very well. And a lot of that was just because of the challenges of different departments not all speaking the same language. And, the challenge is high risk is considered bad merchants, or maybe reputationally they're just, they're very high risk merchants on that prohibited or restricted list. And what GOAT has built from scratch, and part of what we've decided to do, was really build an assembly line in a really easy way to navigate high risk by being more advisory, being a little more guiding in the underwriting packaging and the provisioning of that. And we've worked really, really hard to make that a seamless process, almost as high risk as a service, really servicing the needs of prohibited and restricted merchants. And that could be anything from high risk with navigating high volume, complexities with chargebacks, complexities with reputational risk.
Specific MCC.
Specific MCC codes, future delivery. High risk does not mean bad merchants. It doesn't mean match merchants. It just means underserved merchants that may have some different qualities that would normally in a traditional bank experience be prohibited or restricted. And we have a pretty wide apparatus of placement. We have over 30 different banks. And so, the purpose is to serve our partnerships with the best high quality advisory to help them place these merchants that have a need. They're growing, they're scaling, they may be high risk somewhere else. And we want to take definitely an advisory approach to placing those.
And it's changed dramatically, because we used to also think high risk was e-com, card not present, right? Mail order, telephone order, and those components. And I know, Jenna, we've worked together on some technology that's card present, but by MCC, they may sit in a higher risk. And that's challenging, but you guys have been great to help us overcome some of those challenges. And I think it's a conversation, right? I think that's what I appreciate with GOAT the most is, hey, here's where we're at. This is what we need. How do we navigate? What documentation do I need? Because that's really important in order to try to get these things across the line.
I mean, from the corporate side, I always saw the one place they struggled is they didn't have any guidance on what the underwriting package should look like. And nobody asked them the question. They just were told to collect these 20 different things, go back to the merchant, but they had no context of why they're asking for those things. And I think at GOAT, we purposely built an assembly line where we can both educate the ISO, the partner, anybody that we're servicing or collaborating with, so that way they walk away smarter on how to collect underwriting packages for what we would consider high-risk merchants, but also just underserved merchants that just need solutions.
I know that I refer all my high-risk partners when they're asking me about, pharmaceuticals, peptides. I always refer them to Go Payments. And one of the things that I always tell them is, you guys work with like 30 different banks, so you're going to find a home for them. And, with NMI, we also have the ability to set up one gateway with multiple MIDs. So I always say that the beauty with Go Payments is they have these relationships and they can take a merchant and maybe one of the banks will approve it for just $100,000 a month. Well, now you can set up a second MID with a different bank, and that way their funds aren't being held. They have their cash flow. It's also really good for a high-risk merchant to have a backup. You don't want to just have one merchant account. If for some reason they get a lot of chargebacks and they get shut down, they want to have that backup. And I think you guys provide, because of all the different banks that you have, you provide the ability for one of our partners to be able to bring their merchant and give their merchant options.
And really it's about diversifying both volume, but maybe we can free up working capital. Maybe their reserves are a little too high and they've built enough payment processing experience and state history that we can work on those complex problems and free up more capital for merchants. Another thing that I think it seems like recently there's been a trend of everybody saying they take high risk. And I like to remind a lot of our partners that, yes, we take high risk, and yes, that could be very profitable, but even more profitable is learning when to say no. learning when there's a red flag and when to walk away, because a lot of these guys and gals in the ISO space, they're building downstreams and they get really excited about a particular merchant. And they will send that merchant to 6 different processors, and it's just not, it's not catching on. Fetch is never going to happen. So you need to learn when to say no. And I think with GOAT, when you work with us, and since we have such a wide apparatus and reach with many, many banks, we can easily unveil when to say no, when to walk away and move on, and save a lot of your time, which, I don't think a lot of ISOs monetize their time enough. It's good to work with all these map advisors. At that point, you are monetizing your time with due diligence. You're monetizing your time working with Sarah by spending your money where you have an expertise versus where Sarah can add value. And for GOAT, I think where we add value is really on the advisory and the guidance, underwriting, packaging, and making it as seamless as possible to work with merchants in hard to place, prohibited type of merchants.
Now, you come from a corporate environment where they have huge branding. How has it been to go from that environment where you have huge branding to building a brand with a smaller company?
It's liberating. I purposely left a larger organization because, much like Gretchen said, you just feel like at some point you've sold all the services, you've talked about the same things over and over again, and you're ready to solve for something else that's new. And I think in a corporate environment, you have a marketing team, and marketing takes on that responsibility of lead generation, brand identity. And I thought it was so exciting to go somewhere else and be able to have the agility to build and make decisions and, help build a brand identity the way that we felt we wanted to, because we're very much a small company as well, but we're very mighty. And we do take a sniper approach ourselves. Everybody at the organization is honed in on their responsibility. They do it very, very well. They're very tenured. I've been there just over 4 years. And I feel like now we're really getting some runway on our brand identity because we consistently stick to the core principles of our company, which is advisory, guidance, and honesty. And I think that's really important in sales, is to be transparent and honest about what you can do and what you can't do.
And again, your LinkedIn posts have created a brand because everybody's talking about it. It's really exciting to be a part of the strategy and to be able to roll up your sleeves and
Very
be
much.
part of I think it's challenging, but it's exciting to be a part of that and to know that you're contributing to something that has grown to where it's at now, and you're part of that. I think that's...
If you want a seat at the table, you have to get in there and make difficult decisions. You have to roll up your sleeves. Sarah was starting from scratch, and look what she's built. Gretchen has become an individual contributor to a boutique company that is doing some really big things in the market. And I think if you're in business development or if you're a relationship manager, get in there and insert yourself in places that you don't know the answers.
Well, it helps you grow. It's
Absolutely.
challenging,
Yeah.
but I think it's exciting to feel, it's rewarding, kind of like what you've seen.
Yeah.
It's really rewarding when you start seeing the success of your work. So,
Or not. And the agility to pivot when things are not going your way is so freeing from being in kind of those corporate borders where you have to make decisions based on different departments and services. And at some point, I think for me, it just made sense to go to a smaller company. And Ryan and I are very attuned to service and solutioning. And we've stuck to those core principles at GOAT consistently. And I also think in business development, you can't just sit around waiting for leads. You have to get out there and be where leads are at. You have to be more dynamic. You have to know how to demonstrate your ability to showcase content and to highlight a brand identity, to build a brand identity. And if you're just sitting around waiting for leads, it's you won't learn that way than if you get in there, make the phone calls, get the feedback. I've been told many times no in a day, and that just doesn't stop me in sales. The fun of sales is getting the yes, but also, I learn a lot from the no's too, because I get a lot of feedback.
I've seen you, when you get a no, you really want to figure out, okay, why did I get a no? Now how do I go back and figure out why they said no, and how do I approach it now where I can get a yes? And I've seen you do that. You beat yourself up a little bit because
Very much,
but
yeah.
it shows that's why you're successful, because you're very analytical. After a call, it's like, why, and I think that's why you're successful and you close a lot of business.
My ears hear maybe. They don't hear no.